Well, for more on this, earlier I spoke to the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp.
Well, obviously deporting foreign criminals is welcome. There's been a rising trend now for 2 or 3 years, deporting more and more foreign criminals, and it's good that is continuing. There are some nationalities, however, where they've deported almost no foreign criminals at all, and that is of concern. I'm also concerned that they've only deported a very small number of people who have arrived illegally by small boat. Only about 4% of small boat arrivals have been removed by the Labour government, and the idea that letting 96% of people who arrived here illegally stay is any kind of deterrent is clearly ridiculous, and that's why these illegal crossings have gone up so much under this Labour government.
At the same time, though, Labour is saying that the deportations is a 73% increase on January last year when you guys were in power. And I guess this is a problem that you have. People know the immigration record of the last Conservative government. And I understand that Kemi Badenoch says she's, a new leader, the Conservative Party's under new leadership. But you can't just brush it under the carpet like that. People think that they know your record on immigration and they don't like it very much.
Well, look, the numbers of foreign criminals being deported were going up year after year under the last Conservative government. And of course, it was Keir Starmer who signed a letter a few years ago objecting to the removal of dangerous foreign criminals on human rights grounds. And in fact, one of the foreign criminals that we tried to deport, which Keir Starmer objected to, ended up going on to murder someone subsequently. So I think Keir Starmer's got a bit of a cheek claiming he's tough in this area. Look, the truth is illegal immigration across the Channel has gone up a lot under this Labour government. It's gone up by 28% since the election.
This is slightly my point, though, because some people would say that you guys have got a bit of a cheek criticising the Labour government on immigration after what your record over the last 13 years has been.
Look, I mean, so the Channel crossings went down by a third in 2023. It started going down in the right direction. The Rwanda scheme, if it had been allowed to start, where people who arrive illegally would have rapidly been removed to Rwanda, that deterrent, I think, would have stopped those Channel crossings. We saw it work in Australia. Look, as far as the legal migration numbers are concerned, yeah, those numbers were far too high. And as Kemi Badenoch and I have just honestly and openly said, serious mistakes were made by the last government, but the Conservative Party is now under new leadership and there is a new approach, and that includes proposing a hard, binding legal cap on legal migration at far, far lower levels than we have seen recently, and indeed far lower levels than we've seen forecast going forward as well. And we made an announcement just last week about how people who come here supposedly to work but who don't work, or who claim benefits, or who end up working in very low-wage jobs where they're not making a net contribution, will not be allowed to stay here permanently and will in fact be required to leave. So a new leader, a new approach, which I think will command confidence because we're setting it out over time in detail.
I wanted to ask you about ID cards, because there's a group of Labour MPs calling for the introduction of ID cards. They say it would help support public services, but would also help when it comes to border security. What's your view on ID cards?
Well, I think, universal compulsory ID cards, there are issues concerning, like, civil liberty, which I think people might be worried about. But I think if somebody is going to be, working or trying to access public services, then it is reasonable that they prove their identity. I'm concerned about people accessing benefits who aren't entitled to, who have never paid tax. So I definitely, would be happy to look at proposals which stop people, as I say, taking the British taxpayer for a ride. And that is what our proposals last week were designed to do. So people who come in saying they're going to work but don't work, or they end up earning very low wages.
We've heard your proposals already. But on the ID cards, you mentioned the civil liberties. I mean, some people would say, look, Google knows everything there is to know about us nowadays. Is this really such a big deal?
Well, I think, look, if there are proposals, we'll obviously study them carefully. There is a balance between civil liberties and enforcement. But as I said a second ago, we do need to make sure people who are here potentially illegally don't end up abusing the system by, for example, claiming benefits, illegally working, accessing the NHS when they shouldn't do so. And I'd be happy to constructively study any proposals which clamp down on that, because we don't want people here illegally doing any of those things. In fact, people here illegally should obviously be removed urgently.
OK, one final question for you. Robert Jenrick's been quite busy recently. The MP for Newark in Cambridgeshire, went to Handsworth in Birmingham to make a film about rubbish and fly tipping. He's also been out and about, pictured at a farming protest. He spoke at a protest about a new Chinese embassy. Has anyone told Robert Jenrick that the leadership contest is over?
Well, I think, first of all, Newark is in Nottinghamshire.
But
look,
apologies.
We're a party of...
Also not close to Birmingham, though, is it?
Close. Not particularly. So, look, I mean, we've got 121 MPs. We're all energetic and hard-working, and Robert is one of those energetic and hard-working MPs, just like the rest of us.
Just talk me through how rubbish in Birmingham fits with the Justice Brief.
Well, look, I think, as MPs, we take interest in all kinds of different issues. You'll have to ask Robert what drew him to go to Birmingham. But look, all of us work hard on a whole range of different issues.